Good evening, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progressives. I am very, very, very excited to speak with my next guest, Sam Ronan. Samuel is a millennial, and he is taking on the Democratic Party establishment. As most of you all know from my talks and from the things that I have said, I have been a strong supporter, uber strong supporter of Dem Exit. I have been pushing people to an independent status. I have not been pushing them to a party per se other than the Progressive Independent Party, but I've not even been pushing. My goal has been to remove the influence within the Democratic Party because I've seen it as a dying, dead, disgusting animal full of neoliberals and people that are just not smart enough to understand that they're destroying America by supporting the corporatists that are running the party. But here's the deal. In talking with Samuel, I've realized that Samuel feels very similarly. So I'm going to give Samuel a chance. Samuel, welcome to Real Progressive, sir. How are you tonight?
It's good to be here. So you already did my introduction. My name's Samuel Ronan. I'm running for DNC chairman. And you know, how many 27-year-olds are doing that now, right?
We're zero. One.
One, yeah. So the thing is, you know, I loved being in the military. I still do. I love being in the reserves. My background has only been military my entire adult life. I did a brief quarter in college, but I didn't want to go into debt for the rest of my life, so I definitely enlisted. I wanted to go officer first, but neither here nor there. I agree with you a lot, Steve. Our government is not representing us anymore. They've gotten in bed with money, and it came to a head in 2013 with the government shutdown. So I've been told I ramble too much, so let's tell me to shut up and let's get this going.
All right, brother. So let's talk a little bit. So, you know, as I just stated, I have been full board Dem Exit. I've grown weary of the Dem Enter folks that, you know, my concern for people like myself who are just a level set, since you're not really familiar with who Real Progressives is, let me just tell you, our goal, our mission statement is that we support progressives wherever they exist. We don't care if they're Democrats. We don't care if they're Greens. We don't care if they're socialist alternative, independent, progressive independent party. We don't care. The goal is that you've got to be a straight, dope, real progressive that actually stands by the progressive values and doesn't have any fear of talking about the people, even if they're in their own party, that stray. And what I've seen, and this is what revolts me presently about the Democratic Party, is that they tend to protect blue. You watch all the African Americans in the country get gunned down by the blue wall of silence. I see the same thing happening to working America with the other blue sycophant wall of silence. So talk to me a little bit about how someone like you would come into the Democratic Party and clean house. Let's just get there, because that right there, my friend, is key.
That's right. So how would somebody like me go in there and clean house? Well, Steve, I've been starting since day one. And really the whole reason why I'm here is because when I went to Columbus and I watched the first forum, when it was down to like, I think only 3 or 4 candidates, inevitably the question was asked, what are you going to do to get people to come back to the party? And, you know, they were on this stage with their nice white chairs and elevated, and then maybe 20 feet away from the audience, and the audience was about 250 people, right? It was this nice, small thing. And I was waiting for somebody with the microphone to get up, walk off that stage, and hand the microphone to somebody in the audience. That didn't happen. And to me, that was just the culmination of everything that's been going wrong. These people that deign to lead over us or say they represent us don't, because they're not talking to us. They're not listening to us. So when I showed up in Houston and I said, I don't mean to shoot myself in the foot, but the fact that only you guys get to vote on the future of this party is a problem. Superdelegates is a problem. Having people who rubber stamp Trump cabinet picks and still call themselves Democrats is a problem, and we do need to hold them accountable. And I was the first one, as far as I know, to have laid claim to that and then hit it again and again and again. So how do I hold them accountable? Honestly, ostracization. If you are that governor or senator, congressman, what have you, and you're not living true to the ideals that we set forth, as in representing people, not money, you're gone. You don't get to keep your Democratic label. You will not have our funds. You will not have our support. You will not have our endorsements.
You know what? I mean, if I didn't hate the Democratic Party so much right now, I would even get a little excited about what you just said. So, you've got a long way to go to pull me in.
Oh, no. You know what? You touch on a very valid point, too, with the Dem exit crowd. And, hey, I've been going toe-to-toe with some of those folks, too. I've been going toe-to-toe with a lot of people, apparently, lately. But the Dem, I noticed that it's just pure anger right now. And I get it. I really get it. Because I was right there with you. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I supported Bernie. The Democrats just completely brushed him aside. And it wasn't even so much that he lost. It was how he lost. They just completely jacked him over and stole it from him, right? Depending on how much or how little it was really involvement. But there was a thumb on the scale. And then you get to the convention, and you don't even give us a chance to speak. I feel like, okay, fine. You screwed him over. You played your games. You got your guy on the table. Cool, fine. But you could have at least given us a chance to speak. And I think that would have gone a long way to at least earning our respect, because it shows, hey, you weren't going to win anyway because we weren't going to let you win. But you know what? Here's your chance at the table. You've done your work. You earned that. So here's the thing. Dem exit, 1,000%. I understand that. 14 million of you guys left. I get that. You get that. They don't. And so when I've been going to these forums, I've been conveying that message. And when I was in Baltimore, I laid down the truth. I was very forceful with it. And when I gave that answer, it was silent. Not even it was silent. And that deafening silence, that pin drop silence, I think speaks louder than anything I could have ever said. And that's the point. That's what we have to get through. So can I do that from the outside? No. I mean, nobody can, right? You can't convince somebody from the outside, hello, you need to wake up. You have to do it from within. And that's why ever since Houston, I've been driving this discussion, this narrative of accountability, integrity, and trust. And every other platform or every forum that's been happening since, they've been talking about it more and more and more, trying to appeal to the people that they simply can't reach. I'm sorry. I love everybody that's on that stage. They're all in it, I think, for the best intentions, But whether it's Keith or Tom, they're losing half the party, regardless, because of that lack of trust. Pete Buttigieg is probably the only one that could possibly earn the respect of somebody else, the other half, so to speak, because he's at least done it in his career. But until the Democratic Party, the establishment, truly understands that this Dem exit, that this progressive movement is real, and that there is no going back from this point if we continue to fail, the Democratic Party is toast. And yeah. I've been saying that since day one.
So that brings me to the next point. When you see people just quote unquote fall in line, vote blue no matter who.
Right.
I mean, to me, I've used terms such as worthless. I've used terms such as vote blue sycophant. I've used words as domestic terrorists. I've used words as dull as spoons. I've come up with a million names for these people. I find them to be lesser Americans because of that lack of critical thinking. Mm-hmm. This is a large population that we got to contend with. And so what I'm worried about as I hear you talk is this. The Democratic Party is famous for being chameleons. They learn how to say the language. They pick up on the words. And then like Al Jolson, they do political blackface to us. Hello, my man. And then all of a sudden they're speaking code. They're speaking progressive lingo. They're learning the terms. They're saying the terms. Hey, guys, here's another email. Guys, here's a new word to use. If they ever say this, here's the new word to use. No. Don't worry about that private lingo and the public lingo. This is the lingo, man. Use this lingo. Mm-hmm. And that to me, these words roll off my tongue without any effort whatsoever. I am a progressive. You know what I'm saying? So the idea of people having this public persona and private persona seems to be pervasive throughout the entire Democratic Party, because when push comes to shove, you've got Cory Never Again Booker sitting there voting against pharmaceutical benefits for us humans, us regular people. You've got people like Donna Brazile, who, in my opinion, in my opinion, should be forced to get gum off the sidewalk in D.C. and chew it. I mean, this is a woman that has destroyed any sense of my willingness to vote for her. So these are the people you're dealing with, man.
Oh, yeah.
How in the world they're not leaving. Debbie,
No.
what's-her-name Schultz, she's not leaving. You know, Debbie, what's-her-name Schultz will go ahead and be a part of this thing somehow or another because that's the way it works. So how do we purge? For real, I want you to be successful because your success is ultimately our success if you can be successful. So I want to put that out there right there. So but I don't see it. Talk to me. Give me some hope.
So here's the thing. The whole purging is exactly what's needed. But part of that is also, you know, the Debbie Wasserman Schultzes and the Donna Brazils and everybody else who has not been playing the game the way it should have been played, right? They do need to be ostracized from the party. And Debbie is gone, right? Like, I don't care what it takes, but she will be removed from the party because we have to prove our willingness to move forward. And, you know, I guess I can't say that I can just fire everybody who's a Democrat, but I can say this. As chairman, I would hold so much power because Debbie held so much power, right? So, and Donna holds so much power. So I would, by default, have the same power, right? Well, if they can control primaries, if they can control presidential elections and how debates are worked and this, that, and the other, I'm pretty sure I can cull the herd, so to speak. And part of how we do that, right? It's not so much it has to be a complete destruction of the top end. We have to be involved too in this process, right? And if we can't replace these bad apples, these bad congressmen, these bad senators and governors, well, then we just open the floor to getting them to turn into Republicans, which is even worse. And in my opinion, Democrats, for all of their faults and failures in the past 30, 40, 50 years, they're not Republicans. And so now you talk about that thin blue line, and you're right. And I want to tap on that. There is no thin blue line. From day one, I've been calling them out on their stuff. From day one, I've been saying this is not the way this can work anymore. People don't just want a frivolous seat at the table. They don't want to be a committee of the African American community, committee of Native Americans, committee of whatever. They want to be taken seriously because those committees, okay, fine. So you got 10 millennials, you got 10 black people, you got 10 Native Americans sitting in a room coming up with ideas. And then they hand those ideas to the adults who ultimately make the decision, and they get to choose whether or not that committee will make it to the agenda. That is the most condescending, half-assed, I mean, come up with more adjectives, but that is underhanded. So we have to actually open the doors to the party to everybody. We have to actually be the party of the people, as in you have to get involved. We have to train you. We have to give you the tools, and then we have to help you succeed. And by doing that, this bottom-up growth, we will be able to push the poison out of us, just like with snake venom. You know, you get the anti-venom, and then it pushes it out of the body. You know, you suck it out of the wound, and then it's good. And I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. The Democratic Party, as it currently stands, is not salvageable. That word, it is just not. The reason why I'm doing this, the reason why I'm trying to be chairman, and the reason why we're having this discussion is because it's not that the Democratic Party is salvageable. It's that its structure, that skeleton, the fact that it reaches all across the country, that is salvageable. Because if we lose that in a duopoly, the Republican Party remains unopposed. And with Trump at the helm and Steve Bannon and Sean Spicer and Kellyanne Conway and anybody else, the Mitch McConnells of the country, right? If they have unopposed, unparalleled power and they're just filling up the vacuum before we get the chance to do that, it's going to be bad. It's going to be worse than what it is now. And with the progressive movements and the Dem Exiters and all this, that, and the other, I applaud your efforts. I would actually, as DNC chair, want to help you because democracy is more served the more people are involved in it. And, you know, some people like to make fun of libertarians and green parties, but you know what? If those two candidates had been able to go to those national debates, it might have changed everything. It might have been a quarter split. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. And so that's how we have to think as a party, or at least what I'm trying to convey to people who may wish to come back. I'm trying to give us all the opportunity to have an opinion and discuss. You might not disagree, or you might not agree with my gun control. I might not agree with your economics. But you know what? between our disagreements, there's a middle ground. And that's politics. That's democracy. It's not my way or the highway, because that's what we've been dealing with for the past 30 years. And look where we're at.
Well, I want to fill you in on something here real quick before you go any further. And this is like maybe the most important point I'm going to make to you. And it's taking you probably past your comfort zone, but I got to do this a little bit. I warned you in advance I'd do this. So I'm not being lowball here.
Right.
But the thing to me is this. And if you don't understand this, I'm going to help you offline. I will walk you out of this, no spotlight stuff, just talk to you, because it's just that important.
Okay.
Neoliberalism is not just corporate Democrats. That's not what neoliberalism is. Neoliberalism is the financialization of our economy. It is pushing people into private debt to offset a deficit reduction mindset that the Democrats have championed now since Bill Clinton took over. And it has been going on since Milton Friedman's days of trying to push us into private debt to deal with the valleys and then get us to spend out of debt or pay off our debt during the high points. They have taken away fiscal space and they've pushed it over to monetary policy. And if anybody knows anything about economics, they know monetary policy, trying to change the economy, is like pushing a string up a hill. It doesn't effing work. So the question I have for you is this. You know, I like you. You're a good guy. I mean, regardless of whether we agree on how you're going to go about changing things, that's irrelevant. I'm just saying, I think you're a good guy. What I am saying, though, is this. The Democratic Party is stuck in this idea that taxes fund spending. The average voter is dull as a spoon, too, and they believe that taxes fund spending. The problem here is that based on that mindset, it has been used repeatedly as the blocker for any meaningful change. Every single battle we have had has been, how are you going to pay for it? That's the first thing that comes out. Oh, we're gonna do a Wall Street speculation tax. We're gonna do all these things. We're gonna pay for it. It'll be great. Okay. Right. The reality is that what has happened over and over and over again, every time the federal government runs a surplus, in other words, it depletes its spending, the private sector runs in deficit, and we end up in private debt. Look at student loans. Look at the mortgage industry across the board. And what happens? Whenever we're in debt, we're paying interest on that debt. So what happens? The rich keep getting richer because they're making money off our interest. Well, we're treading water. So that's why the wealth gap has grown. Democrats have all been the ones pushing this. Bernie Sanders is the first one to really come out and say, hell to Paul Wellstone, of course, people like that. But the reality is the Democratic Party has signed on to every one of these bills. I mean, the idiots were still praising Bill Clinton for his surplus. They were still praising him that he was going to run the economy. Oh, we will elect Hillary, and we'll have degraded. It'll be great. We'll build a bridge to a new tomorrow. And all this bullshit. These worthless jackasses thought that the Clinton economy was good. But think about this. The minute that Bush got into office, what happened? He got a recession. Do you think that was because they didn't like his breath? No, it took time to get there. And it was Clinton that did it. And it was Clinton that reformed welfare. It was Clinton that did all these things. He signed away Glass-Steagall, on and on and on. And even in this election, this very election, those pork pie hat wearing sycophants, woo, Democrats, those people were out there cheering for this garbage. So this is a serious problem because that is the reason for Donald Trump. It is the reason for it. And so how can we say the Democrats are at least not Republicans when I see literally no difference as it stands? Better bedside manners at best. I'll give you the floor now, buddy.
All right. So you're right. You know significantly more about the economy and on all these little nuances than I do, but I do understand math and I do understand numbers and I understand how our economy works. We're a consumerist society, which means if people can't spend their money and they can't save their money, then our economy goes to hell in a handbasket. And I'm assuming that's where all the private debt comes into play. You're right. If we can't reform education, if we can't reform healthcare debt and all this other stuff, right? If we can't reform so that people are less burdened in general, then our economy continues to tank. And I think you touched on this a little bit. It's because we got in bed with big business. And so Democrats might have been able to paint a better brushstroke because we're not belligerently in bed with the 1%, whereas the GOP is like, ha ha, let's get ourselves a good old time and watch these poor people be poor. Ha ha. I get that. All right. So with that, I understand that, as DNC chair, everybody's been, interviewing me and asking me questions as if I'm running for president. So, I got 8 years to go, guys. This is, my practice round, right?
Yes.
But I understand that. I truly grasp that. And, that's why I when it talks about Citizens United, for instance, right? What gets me, and I think you'll like what I'm about to say. What gets me is that money can actually buy politics, as in we have 535 people in Congress and the Senate, right? And somehow each of those 535 people are selling their souls for $20,000, $10,000, $100,000, $300,000. They are saying, all right, Big Pharma, you cut me that big stinky check, I will give you $1 billion payback or kickback or whatever else. Are you kidding me? That's not even a very good return on your investment. They just made a 7,000%, 8,000% profit off of giving you $10,000 because you're so weak and pathetic that you're going to be swayed by $10,000. I'm sorry, if I'm going to sell my soul, my price tag is a little bit higher than 10 large. All right, 10 large doesn't even pay off my freaking car. All right, and you want to talk about grassroots? Okay, I'm paying my car off. All right, I'm in my aunt and uncle's house right now. Okay?
I can vouch for that.
Okay, I'm driving across the country on my dime. I'm flying to Atlanta, to Houston, to all these places on my dime. You know what I'm saying? That's grassroots, and I understand what we're going through. And so this thin blue line has got to go. This money in politics has got to go. And if our leader – here's the thing. Let's say I got elected to Congress, right? And I was one of them. Cool. Big Pharma comes up to me. It's like, hey, Congressman Ronan, here's $100,000. I want you to propose a bill for this thing. It's like, oh, well, thank you, Big Pharma. I'm happy to take your $100,000. This is a donation, correct? Not a loan. It's a donation. Thank you. All right, thank you. I would turn right the hell around, walk into that auditorium, that big, wherever we do business, and I would propose the same exact thing that was just proposed, I think, by Bernie Sanders, where we can start having Medicare negotiate for drug prices, and we can start re-importing the same damn drugs that we sold to Canada back to the United States that is cheaper than the crap that's here. And I would tell them to go take their $100,000 and shove it. That is leadership. That's what we need in politics. And quite frankly, I'm the only one at that table that's talking like that and actually willing to follow through. It's not political suicide for me to stand my ground. Apparently, it is for everybody else. And I don't know why that's the case. I don't know when that happened, serving your country, representing the people, when that was actual political suicide. But that to me is disgusting. And you know what? I give Bernie another shred of credit. If I had been in the same freaking zip code as Ted Cruz, I wouldn't have been able to hold myself back from punching him in his slimy face for what he did.
Very good. So I got a question, and it's ironic. Tatsu is on my team, just so you know, and
okay.
We did not collaborate in this. But he says, how would you feel having to support Dem candidates who aren't progressives? In other words, like Manchin, who went ahead and signed off on, I think he signed off on Devos, and he signed off on, what's his name, the AG. Right. I mean, what is that all about, man? Come on. I mean, how do you deal with that? We talked about it offline. I asked Tim Canova the same question. What is your response to that? Because you'll be head of the DNC, not just head of the progressive Democrats.
Right.
So how do you fit
and
there?
So part of what I use is the Thanksgiving metaphor, right? We're all a big dysfunctional family. We all disagree. We all have our own opinions, right? But we still come down to Thanksgiving dinner and we still pass the potatoes, right? So it's not like we can just all of a sudden be like, all right, now we're all progressive or now we're all Bernie-crats. That's also not good. Because if we're all thinking the same way, if we're all doing the same thing, there is no forward interaction. There's no more communication because we're all just agreeing with each other. Well, what if we're agreeing with each other and we're missing something? Like there's just that little thing that could make our argument that much stronger. Well, we don't have it because we pushed them to the side, right? So we do have to put everyone on the table. And the other thing is it's a culture, it's a growth. If I were to be chair, I can't guarantee it that we would win a single rural local election in 2017. You know what I mean? In 2018, I think we could have a chance because we'd have spent a year building a base of communication. And the other reality is some of these entrenched conservative strongholds, they're going to stay that way for 5 or 10 years. So if we ran a pure progressive ticket, we couldn't win. We couldn't reach that. And that's part of the pragmatism that may get lost and may lose some of the people that may be watching here. But I do want to say this. it's not so much do you fall in line with this laundry list of things. It's, are you, at the end of the day, going to pass legislation, fight for legislation, fight for judicial reform, and all these other things that will ultimately benefit the American people in a positive way? Are you going to work for Americans? Are you going to work for the public? And if you can do that, and you're not adhering to every single thing on this list, but you're trying your damnedest to actually look out for the little guy, I can live with that. Because unfortunately, we A, have to, and B, that is a significant improvement for where we are, where people are just, people as in the ones that are elected are just taking these handouts, these corporate and lobbyist funds, and just saying, screw it, I'm going to get mine. Once I've done my 2 or 4 years in office, I'll just become a lobbyist and I'll get a 7-figure salary. So part of it is the people process. I would love to say that I'm just going to, if you're not progressive, if you're not following this set of rules, you're gone. It's, if you're not fighting for people, if you're not working for us, you're gone. And unfortunately, in some places like Alabama, a progressive ticket just won't work. It just won't. I know that. I'm sure you know that, but I know you're going to come at me and say, well, that's bullshit. But at the same time, we're not there yet. We're not there yet to where we can just say this is how we have to do it, because it's this growing pains. We have to heal first. And part of that might be a little bit of compromise. But as we grow as a party again, once we start establishing our new identity, this integrity and this trust, once we build that again, then we can start having these conversations. All right, now it doesn't matter if you're in rural Mississippi or California, this is where we stand, and this is where we have to stand. But that's going to probably be 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years in the future before we're at that level. We have to build to that level.
Let me make a comment here, because I want to give you your due props, because I applaud you for taking the effort and the time to spend your own money, do your own thing, the initiative. You're a young man, you're trying really hard, etc. But I want to give you some idea of what I think you're missing in this, and maybe this will help you, and maybe you'll just say I'm full of shit. But the way I look at it is this: the vast majority of our country, A, doesn't vote, and B, is independent. Mm-hmm. The split between Republicans and Democrats, when you look at them combined, don't make up for what independents make up. Right. So if you open up elections, okay, and you can put together a proper platform, a platform that shames these people like Claire McCaskill, shames them out of the country, man. I don't even want her on U.S. soil. Okay, but literally puts out a platform. This is what we're fighting for. This is what my goal as DNC chair is to fight for. Okay, Here it is. And I think what you'll see, and I'm just telling you, if you ever wanted to see the Democratic Party come back to life, the only way to do that is to infuse new blood into it. And that new blood has got to come from the independents. And the independents don't want to hear you telling us that we've got to compromise on, instead of letting people out on marijuana, because we legalize it, we'll only keep them in jail for 2 years. We don't want to compromise like that. We don't want to lose our lives, and we don't want to go to war. We don't want to do a whole – I'll give you your time. I just wanted to get that out there. I don't think –
And maybe compromise was the wrong word, because I know what you're saying. We can't continue this game of pandering, right? And if I came off as if that's what I was saying, I apologize. What I was saying is we have to rebuild our base, right? We have to actually have a base, and we have to reach out to the independents, the conservatives, the moderates, the progressives, and that means there's a whole lot of different ideas, right? So progressivism, we don't like guns. We want to limit it. We want to do just boom, no assault rifles and all this, that, and the other. But in the South, they love their guns. So what I was saying was if we did that even in the South, we would lose regardless, because, right? So I guess that's what I'm saying. We have to, in some cases, pick or choose our battles, perhaps, or at least not put a big, bright spotlight on it. I'm not saying I want to sacrifice our integrity just to win elections. That's what we're doing now. Then you may as well vote for Keith or Tom, right?
Right.
We have to be all at the table is what I'm saying. I'm saying we have to take everybody's thing into consideration, and to some that might seem like compromise, but it's just we're instead of gonna highlight everything and say this is what we're shoving down your throat, it's hey, we gotta talk, we gotta understand that people aren't going to be on board with this right away. And you're right, the independent movement is so strong now. Party affiliation is at its lowest ever. We do need to reach the independents, but are all independents progressives? And
No.
the question is no, or the answer is no. And so it's not so much that I'm trying to find whatever middle ground is there. It's I want to be able to reach everybody, have us all sit at the table, and then collectively come up with that plan that maybe not everybody can agree with, but everybody can live with. And then once we have that start, that beginning, then we can work towards our, the idealism. Because if we go to idealism purely, right, if the Democratic Party falls and we just have the Justice Dems and the Young Turks and the New 535 or this movement and that movement, they're too small. And that's my fear. My fear is that the Democratic Party falls and the vacuum that leaves will just be filled by the Republican Party because everybody else is not big enough or strong enough yet.
Right. So let me ask you another question, right? So when you're looking at reality, like forget politics, get rid of politics, get rid of elections and all that shit for just a second, right? When we talk about reality, reality is that the climate is changing, that our environment is screwed up. We have scientific evidence, not politically driven. We have scientific evidence that says if we don't change, we die.
Yes.
Period. Okay? It's just that simple. And when we look at efficiency, you want to be conservative? Let's be conservative. When you talk about efficiency, oil, digging it out of the ground is not efficient, nor is it healthy, and it's facilitating, once again, the environmental collapse. So these are not political decisions, in my opinion. It's an education issue. We're talking about reality. Are you living in reality, or are you hitting some weird drug we haven't experienced yet and creating alternative facts, the alt facts, whatever, fake news?
Yeah, don't even get me started on that.
So my question to you is this. When I talk about macroeconomic reality, when I talk about environmental reality, when I talk about the fact that we can see systemic racism, we can see environmental racism. We're not talking about like, I wonder if this is happening. This is like empirical. Forget the politics behind it.
No.
Okay. So when you look at that, right, and you start looking down the road at, like, for example, the drug war, and you say, well, how come that little black kid's acting up in class? And you say, well, they're drinking grape aid. Well, why are they drinking grape aid? Because you cut their freaking food stamps. Well, why are they on food stamps? Should have made better choices. No, you took your dad and you put dad in jail for smoking a joint. Well, why didn't you make better choices? Why the hell are we making people go to jail for pot? Oh, because in some 1920s movie, somebody didn't like seeing white women dance with black guys, so we decided we'd go ahead and make it illegal. I mean, this is facts. This is not politics.
No, I agree. I'm glad you brought that up because so I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine, go.
I just want to say I agree, and I know. Like, that's awful. So you brought up climate change and you brought up the systemic racism and this, that, and the other. When I wanted to run for Congress, right? You don't leave the military to run for a state level office, right? You leave the military and run for federal office. Well, I got that pushback, right? But anyway, what I wanted to do was part of my campaign would have been going specifically to inner cities, like the places where I would just as likely get shot as I would have someone talk to me because of, whatever. But I'm okay with that. I understand that. I understand where we've come from. And this is, I want to be real right here. I just want to, you said politics aside, right? Politics aside. It kills me that in the United States of America, in the year of our Lord, 2017, Anno Domini, we still have racism. We're still fighting for women's rights. We're still fighting for LGBT. Are you kidding me? We're still having the crusades, for God's sakes. What do you the war in the Middle East, the war on terrorism, is the crusades of the modern era, and it's disgusting. It's despicable. And you brought that up with the marijuana. Hemp was America's #1 cash crop, and I crunched the numbers. I want to send you my spreadsheet and just tell me how wrong or how correct I am. To me, that if we legalize marijuana, not just getting high on the weekend, but the hemp industry, that is a multi-trillion-dollar industry right there, or it has the potential. Because it can do textiles, it can do plastics, it can do construction, it can do this table, it can do plastic, it can do just about everything that we use on a day-to-day basis, short of, well, I don't know. I mean, you look at any hemp website, it's like it is the thing, the #1 crop. And then climate change, right? Fracking is stupid. I went to Standing Rock the weekend before the election because I was like, no, I'm going to do something that matters. I already know I'm going to lose it, and I'm not going to just waste my time. I'm going to do something that matters with my life, and I'm going to go there to Standing Rock. And what I saw broke my heart. First of all, there was a military Humvee with a guardsman sitting on it with his M16, M4, whatever he was, in full battle rattle, like he was in the middle of freaking Afghanistan, blocking off a road in rural North Dakota, keeping people from going to a cannonball. I've never been deployed personally, but if I had been, I think I would have just lost my mind. And I know a lot of veterans did too, because after they showed up, the first thing they did is take down that razor wire. And when I say they took down that razor wire, let me repeat that. There was razor wire preventing citizens from crossing a specific area on this, our land, North Dakota, United States of America. Okay, razor wire. And defensive structures, law enforcement, snipers in the freaking hills. Okay, 2016, 2017. That's not acceptable. We can't do this. And the fact is that it's our First Amendment right to protest. And right now, we've been voting for decades. We've been trying to, get people in office that cared and give a damn. And then we had gerrymandering, and we tried to overcome that. And then we flip-flopped, and it's like, okay, we'll vote for the Blues. Now we'll vote for the Reds. Well, they're screwing up. Now the only thing left to us right now is protest. And we're being attacked as if we're uprising. We kind of are, but at the same time, it's our right to do that. It's in the Constitution. The same Constitution that I, my uncle, and many others swore to protect and defend. And we're being shit on right now as a collective. The 99% is just not treated like human beings. And the fact that that is the case, and there's really nothing that I can do as a singular individual, a part of the protest. It's just my military service. I can't do that as a soldier. I can't stop that from happening, right? But if I got involved in politics, if I became DNC chair, I can make it my mission. I can make it a prerogative across the country to stop that nonsense. Because the second Trump got in office, that thing was rubber stamped. That thing was set to go. The Democrats, they've been still taking money. They've been getting his cabinet picks appointed. They haven't been fighting hard enough for lowering student loan debt, for healthcare costs and all this. That can change just as much as it exists today. It existed because over time people voted for it. Well, it can be unvoted or changed through the process.
So I want to ask you, I got two questions here that are important. Can you turn I don't know if you hear me. I'm echoing big time.
I can hear you.
No, I'm saying, can you turn the volume down?
Oh,
there we go. Oh, that's okay. So here's the deal, right? We have a situation where many Democrats are saying, we don't want you progressives in the party. We want you to go away. You're not welcomed here. I mean, yeah. I see it all the time. They said it to Bernie. They say, there was some wretched beast of a person that said, you're not even a real Democrat. To them, I say, fuck you. You'll never see me in your party if that's your mindset.
Right.
Okay. And so what I have to ask you is this, because we've gotten to a point now, I believe, where empirical evidence shows that biting off on the edges like Hillary did, we'll do free college up to $125,000. Forget the parent that is divorced and has to pay $3,000 a month in child support that makes $126,000. But we'll just go ahead and we'll just say, we'll nibble around the edges and we'll balkanize it and we'll make it needs based. When are we going to start seeing our Democratic Party in this country, or any party? The Greens are doing it. Hats off to them. When are we going to start talking about actual citizens' benefits, New Deal era type stuff? Instead of sitting there dicking around.
How dare you stole my words. You stole.
Let's go. Let's go, man. Talk to me.
You watched my Baltimore.
No,
so,
talk to me, brother.
Okay.
I want to know for a fact.
Correct.
Hold on. Before you go any further, let me get on the mug. I was giving you the air, but I want to say it outright for my people. I want to know for sure, are you going to force single-payer health care onto the Democratic platform? Fuck this nonsense and biting around the edges. Talk to me.
All right, buddy. So this is it. This is the real deal. when I actually got to say it in Baltimore, we need to remember our roots. When we were FDR, when the New Deal happened, we were a great country at that point. That was the birth of the middle class. That was the start of our golden era of growth and everything. We were the envy of the world for a decade. And then that slowly trickled away and slowly trickled away. So yeah, we need to, A, get a spine, grow a pair, and we need to start fighting for the things that we believe in. So again, I will fight. I will put that on the agenda, and I will hold that measuring stick up against the senators and congressmen and governors. I want day one is going to have a book this thick slammed on a table and say, look, this is going to happen. Universal health care, universal education, economic reform, all these things that are going to help people, these are what's going to happen. Superdelegates, gone. Open primaries, happening. The exclusivity clause for debates, out the window. You know what I'm saying? Corporate money is no longer going to be available to Democrats as a party or as individuals. If you take corporate money, you're gone. We're going to be a party of the people. Our donations are going to come by people. And we saw that. If people believe in something, they will give the shirt on their back to support it. And if even just 30 million people who are typically actively involved in something as this big, it's usually a very small percentage, it's like 10% of the country. If that 10% gave $1 a month each month, that's $360 million, which is over $100 million more than what the Democratic Party makes on a regular basis while being in bed with corporate and lobbyist America. So absolutely, you can quote me on that. You can shout it from the highest mountains. There are some things we will not be bending on. Corruption and making sure people are taken care of. That does mean single payer. That does mean the universal health care and education. That does mean like citizens' rights, true citizens' rights. That whole New Deal concept. We need to be a part of that. That needs to be our rallying cry. And I think that'll resonate regardless of your political spectrum, whether you're far left or far right. Having the opportunity to truly embrace people again and empowering people at our level. I even talk about it a little bit, having a workers' bill of rights. First of all, unions are a wonderful thing, but we shouldn't need unions. It should just be we get the benefits because we're doing a freaking job. And here's the reason for it. Here's the mentality, right? We should be making anywhere between $20 and $26 an hour based on productivity rates since the 70s and the decline that's been happening. So you're the economist, you know that better than I do. So whatever it is, right?
It's leading me to
our productivity has gone up significantly. Our skills have gone up significantly. Our technology has gone. We are worth so much more than $7.50 an hour. So things like that we shouldn't have to fight for, Profit sharing is maybe one way. Raising the minimum wage is one way. But if we just do one thing or the other, it's not going to work. It's going to still fall into this cycle of what you were saying.
So let me help you, for real.
Yeah.
This is something that John Conyers almost gets right. He almost gets it right. But every year, he puts this Humphrey bill forward for full employment. Every year, he puts this thing out there for full employment, okay? It's for a federal job guarantee. Now, let me explain to you the rationale behind having a federal job guarantee, and it eradicates 90% of the problems that you're dealing with right now. Number one, immediately solves for income inequality in this country, immediately redistributes national GDP to the bottom, immediately takes away the employer's ability to punish the worker, immediately provides a living wage and eradicates poverty in one fell swoop. It immediately provides mobility to every human being in America so that no longer will they be stuck in Flint, Michigan. You fix the fucking pipes or you go out. You sit there and you immediately provide a living set of benefits, from health care to paid family medical leave to college, the whole enchilada. And then private sector, you want to hire me away from my federal job guarantee? That is something that's allowing me to self-actualize? Well, you better sweeten the pot, motherfucker. That's right. The way I see it. So tell me, would you consider making a federal job guarantee a major part? Because to me, that is ground zero of fixing everything. To me.
So I was going to say, the way you were just talking about it, I think I just found my new Stephen D. Grumbine. You're going to be my new economic secretary, because you're absolutely right. Here's the thing. I admit here right now, live on for the whole world to see, I don't have all the answers. I know enough about economics to be dangerous, but this guy right here, he has a better vision. He has a better understanding. And as a leader, not as a manager, but as a leader, I have to respect and understand that there are people that are going to be smarter than me in areas. You know, I might be a subject matter expert in something, but somebody else is going to be a subject matter expert in something else. And you, my friend, Steve, you definitely have the right ideas with this economic process. And I think I've said something similar. I don't know if it's still on my webpage or not, but I do believe in this basic tenet of civility, like this basic workers' rights. Maternity leave should at a very minimum be like three months to a year. I think most places have it at least 3 months, and some of the better countries have it up to like the first 3 years, right? Whatever, cool. But that should, I mean, the father should also be able to have some maternity leave. You know, you need to have both, and in that early nurturing stages of a child. I don't have kids, but I know that, so why would I get in the way of it? And that basic guarantee. If we had universal healthcare, education, guaranteed wages that was actually able to sustain consumption, we would cut our federal deficit immediately, because we're paying for our healthcare 4 or 5 times over through health insurance, deductibles, part of the copay and part of the percentage of the procedures itself, plus what we pay in Medicare and Medicaid, plus, you know, the going to there in the first. It's just there are so many asinine hurdles to go through just to pay for going to, you know, get my cold checked. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So you're absolutely right, and we are on board with that. You are just completely more nuanced about it than I am. You know what? You write that for me. Write it in a legalese way that I can put it on a piece of, you know, and give it to somebody to say, done. All right.
Pavlina Cherneva, echoed Pavlina and Stephanie Kelton. I'm going to be asking you guys to help me write this guy so he has the federal job guarantee written out just so.
Exactly. You know what? And that's right. And right there, I'm already doing the job of DNC chairman. We just discussed a policy issue that matters to 319 million Americans, and in such a way that we agreed to disagree, but we still came to a conclusion. I'd say that's exactly what we need. Am I wrong?
No, I want to tell you, I mean, I like what you're saying. I don't like the fact that you still think we got to reduce the deficit, because a public sector surplus is a private sector deficit. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. You're doing phenomenal. I'll be honest with you. I don't think you're going to be successful. It's not that I don't want you to be successful, because we need something. You know, we need it. But the flip side is that I think you're up against forces that are stronger than any of us even know. And it's right. I'm not cutting your legs, because like I said, you have said so many things today that make me have hope. Okay. I'm still not there yet, but I'm letting you know, you personally, not the Democratic Party, but you, I think, are a good egg, and I would follow you if you were taking me somewhere other than the Democratic Party. But here's my question to you. And this is I think what our audience would like to know, because I'll be honest with you, we're working outside the party. The Progressive Independent Party, led by Eric Bloss, and people like Nick Branya, who just started to try to do this whole, let's draft Bernie for a people's party, okay? Yeah. We're starting to see huge groups of people that are within this Bernie movement moving away from the Democratic Party and organizing. Now, yes. Let me ask you this. I'm not I'd like you to answer, but you don't have to answer. If you don't get the DNC chairman here, if we don't see what you need to see, we would love to have you come on board and help us, because you're a good guy, and I think you got good ideas. And I think that we need to stand up with our fists in the air. And if that doesn't happen for you, I'd hate to see you become a lapdog that has been domesticated within a neoliberal shit show. I'm just telling you, I'd hate to see you wasted like that.
No, and Steve, you don't need to worry about that, and you can talk to a lot of my supervisors that I've had in the military. They'll tell you that I'll stand up. My spine is it's still pretty strong, if I say so myself. And, you know, people ask me all the time, hey, if you don't get chair, can you come to the Green Party? Can you come to the Libertarian Party? Can you come join us here in whatever this is? And you know what? I'm happy to. The problem is when I say I'm grassroots, again, I'm in my aunt and uncle's house, sitting here watching TV. And I have to be able to put food on the table, all right? So if you guys want to wrestle me away from Ohio, I'm okay with it. Just help me get a job, help me get, let me crash on your couch for a few months, get my feet under me. No, but I'm absolutely about it. And here's the thing. I don't want to make it sound like that the Democratic Party is the last hope. That's not how I truly feel. It's that right now, where we currently are, if the Democratic Party were to fall, it would just be filled by the Republicans. Because even though we have this massive undertaking going on out on the outside, it isn't coalescing yet. We're almost there, right? I feel like in a year or two, seriously, we can be a force to be reckoned with. And then even if I am DNC chair, I'm going to be like, you know what, guys? Mic drop. Okay? Because this is what we need. This is how we start working together. We don't need political parties. That's what we have. We need to be at a point where we're held to the standard of our own credibility and our own ideas. That's where I'd like to see us. And even as DNC chair, I was asked, hey, would you let third-party candidates come up on the stage and debate during the president? Absolutely I would, because it's important. And that's what we need.
I'll tell you what, let me just throw this out there to you, and you just kind of hit the nail on the head. I was never going to vote for Hillary Clinton. She never had my vote. There was no chance in hell she was getting my vote. It wouldn't have mattered if they would have brought out Trumpzilla. And, they did bring out Trumpzilla, and I still voted for Jill. And I did it proudly with my fist in the air. The reality, though, is that I'm not enamored of any kind of, we don't really have a good setup right now for any of the parties. Right now, America is so fucked up, it is not even funny. And it's the worst part is that we've got no truth in media. We've got no truth in our newspapers, our online publications. The TV shows people watch during prime time are full of propaganda. I mean, Leni Riefenstahl would frickin' blush at the propaganda the U.S. puts out there. I mean, right? we're like we're like Seagal. I mean, this is exactly what it looks like when you watch the flags going and you watch the I mean, everything is so jackbooted right now. It's like, what the hell, man? Did I step into the Twilight Zone? I mean, our country is so fucked, and people are so poorly educated. Yes. Even, like right behind me here, I've got a Master of Science and I got a Master of Business Administration, and I'm telling you right now, they taught us some myths in those things. I've had to unlearn a lot of myths in that MBA. Right. And the reality is that we sit here as a nation, and I ask you, and I ask all the people that would follow you or follow any political leader, what is it that you're following? Is it the cult of personality, or is it the principles? If you're not following the principles, you'll go anywhere. And that is the problem with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is a party of sheep. Right now, I'm just saying, as it stands, they go, I'm not disagreeing. And they go wherever, and then they fall off the cliff. And then what do? As soon as they bounce off the ground and get up, they point over at the people that voted for their conscience and say, you did this. And it's like, dude, you were the idiot that fell off the cliff. Don't blame me for your stupidity. I can't help that. I voted for my conscience, and damn it, I'll do it again. And that's the thing. Look, for real, I think you're a good guy. I think that you are doing the best you can given tough circumstances. And as far as this goes, I don't feel oily interviewing you. And I was worried that I'd feel a little oily. I don't feel that at all. I feel like I'm in the presence of a guy who genuinely wants to do good. So with that, we're coming up on the hour. I want to give you a chance to close out, give your pitch, and then we'll say I'll give promotions for the next couple of days for Real Progressives. You're up, man.
All right. So the part of this whole thing, the pitch, right? What we feel and what you just hit on is we're a nation in pain. We're a nation divided. And this election cycle has not ended yet, because the reality is there is some terrible, terrible, and terrifying things happening in the administration. And what we haven't had is closure. Usually the president gets elected. He does whatever he does. and then we get a chance to, heal our wounds and talk to each other and figure things out and things smooth out. We haven't had that yet. We need a chance to heal. And the best way that can happen is if we have honest leaders that fulfill the role of integrity and truly embody accountability. And that's what I'm trying to do. So that's the pitch. And then this is the unashamed advertising. If you like what I've said, or if you can at least stomach what I've said so far, right? At Ronan for DNC is Twitter. Facebook.com/Ronan for DNC is my Facebook public page. I've been getting inundated on my public page. My website is www.ronanfordnc.org. And on that particular website, you have my bio, my platform. I have a link to the Justice Dems. And I took off the listings for the DNC members who ultimately get to decide the fate and future because it had their personal phone numbers on there. But if you do research them, you can go Google state, whatever state you are and who are my DNC members. You can find it. It's just we're working on a list that just has their emails. Anyway, you can go there and you'll find that and reach out to them. But I beg you, you guys are a very passionate bunch, very passionate. Please be respectful, because if you want me to have a chance of winning this thing, they actually have to vote for me. You can't just cuss them out and use all caps in an email. The other thing on there is a donation page, and I don't want to highlight it simply because if you do donate, I want you to be able to donate. I don't want you to donate if you got bills to pay, if you got loans. Do not donate to me. I would rather you just share this interview and other things like that, okay? If you want to help, do that, please. And I have a YouTube channel as well, Samuel Ronan. It has 19 videos and I think a couple hundred subscribers, so it should be fairly prominent now. It should be able to cut itself away. And I'm pretty reachable. I try and stay engaged as much as possible. I can't debate everybody. I can't answer everybody's questions, but I try to. And we have a really good team that stays on top of social media. So if you like what and Atlanta, that's where we're going to be next. That's the vote on the 25th. And this Wednesday, I'm going to be at Washington, D.C. for the Women's National Democratic Ballroom Extravaganza. So you'll be able to hear me one last time speaking live in D.C. this Wednesday.
Sam, I want to thank you. You really are an impressive young man. I appreciate your time. Again, I think you've given people something to think about. I think that's all you can do. That really is all you can do. So I appreciate your candor, and I appreciate you being a good sport. And no, seriously. So with that, maybe we can have you back on sometime in the future if you'd like.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
That would be fantastic.
I would be happy to do that.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out real quick. So tomorrow night is Valentine's Day, and you are going to have, it's going to be a blast. Debbie, the same progressive, myself, and Arnman Coney. We're going to be on there, and we haven't figured out if it's going to be called Love Progressive Style or whether it's going to be 50 Shades of Progress. But whatever it is, the promos are out there. This is going to be a lot of fun. Please join us. If you don't have a hot date tomorrow night, please catch us live at 8 p.m. on Real Progressives. If you do have a hot date, you can catch us on replay on YouTube, etc. Please follow us on YouTube so we can abandon Facebook eventually, okay? These bastards are throttling us like you wouldn't believe. 100,000+ people, keep following us, folks. Anyway, I'd like to thank my guests one last time. Sam, you were great. Thank you so much, folks. This is Steve Grumline, Sam Ronan. Thank you so much. Have a great night. We're out.
Thank you.
You got it, buddy.